Welcome to the very first feeder World Championships to be fished on the River Tibor here in Todi, Perugia. 16 nations will participate for the first gold medals to be issued in this discipline. Who are the favourites? Well, I think we can mention England, Italy, Holland, Belgium or even the Germans. But as these nations have never come together under competition, I don't think we can write anyone off just yet. Today is the last day of practice, so let's go and have a look at a few of the teams preparing for the first feeder World Championships 2011. We joined Team England this morning as they prepare their bait for the final day of training. As you see, the whole team worked together to get everything ready. Temperatures in the week reached the 40-degree mark, so looking after your bait is very important and not easy in this heat.
When you put them in it, if you leave it,
Maximal bait limit is 2.5 litres per angler, with a limit of 500 millilitres of bloodworm and joker. Tomorrow, bait must be presented to the bait controllers in official SIPS containers like these here. That way, procedures run smoothly. SIPS, by the way, is the initials for the International Federation of Angling. Dead and live maggots of all colours are a part of England's tactics. In a couple of countries on the continent, coloured maggots are forbidden. Well, they are here in Germany, where I happen to live. I also know that on the mainland Europe, dead maggot is an underestimated bait and not often used, as it is in the UK. England will fish today the tactics they plan on using tomorrow morning. Each angler has committed himself to half a litre joker, a quarter litre of worms, half a litre caster, and the rest 1.25 litres will consist of maggots, plus a few pieces of corn for the hook. They'll be using 2 ground baits for today, a bright yellow mix for the carasio and catfish lines and a browner mix for the carp. And we're joined by England manager and former world champion in course fishing, of course, Tommy Pickering. No introductions. Tommy, thanks for having a quick word with us. First of all, will you introduce us to your team? We've got members like Steve Ringer and Steve Hemingway you read about on the continent. You read about their articles. Will you introduce us to the rest of the team and where they come from?
Well, you've got Darren Cox, who comes from, well, he actually comes from Leeds originally, but now lives in Worcestershire, at Stratford-on-Avon. You've got Mick Veals from Rotherham, and then you've got Dean Barlow, who's originally from Nottingham, but now lives just south of Manchester, and I'm from Yorkshire, so we're scattered about a little bit.
How did you decide on picking a team for the feeder championships?
It's very difficult because we've been the first year. I mean, I'm not 100% sure who the anglers are, so I had to pick the anglers that I know were capable of fishing a river and fishing this kind of river. So it's just from my experience of one, knowing the people, knowing their past experiences really. But we're going to have a series of look at other anglers as well, so we can have a look and identify other anglers for the future. But the first time I just selected who I thought I could cope with this river.
Yeah. So we've been here now 3 days training, only 3 days on this stretch. What are your first impressions of the venue?
It's exactly what I thought it would be. I thought it would be a tough venue. There's plenty of fish in it, and I just thought it would be a tough venue, and that's exactly what it is. And I think the team that sorts the methods out the best will win it. And we've got a couple of methods, and just hopefully we chose the right ones.
Did you have any initial information before you come to the venue?
Well, we've been over and seen the venue before. Me and Mick came over a while ago and had a fish, so we had some idea. They've put a few fish in as well, just to confuse the issue a little bit. But yeah, we knew we knew about the carasio, the carp. There's probably more carp in than I thought there would be as well. So, but I always said, with the more and more food goes in, it might just turn them on a little bit, and it looks like it has done.
Yeah. What sort of weights you been having over the week in training?
Between 2 and 6 kilo. And the problem is when you get 6 anglers who are actually fishing in 5 pegs, because you get like a zone and you're a bit tighter and using the same sort of baits, it's usually quite difficult. And but 2 to 6 kilos. I think any team that has 3 to 4 kilos a man would absolutely murder it.
Yeah. The England team spend quite a lot of their time on commercial venues catching carp, and how does that help you in catching on natural venues like this?
These are different carp. They're not like English carp. These feed differently. They tend to be more in deeper water. It's not like fishing an English commercial. These are river wild carp, and they do feed differently. So when I've picked my team, I've gone for quite anglers who know what they're like abroad and experience, and have got international experience in other competitions as well, just so they know how the event works out, how people are on the bank and everything, and they all fish for big teams, so they understand the team pressure as well.
Have you had to develop new methods to catch these carp, or are these methods you use in England?
No, we don't use these in England. It's just different. You have to fish for them differently with different baits, and of course we've got bait restrictions, we've got hook length restrictions, different size feeder rod restrictions. So all these restrictions we have to adhere to, and so has everybody else,
Have you had a chance to look at any other teams? Yeah. Which teams you think you are up for in the running for a podium place?
I think Belgium have done okay. Holland will catch some fish, and we're not quite sure after that because you hear all kinds of rumours, and I don't listen to rumours, but I think probably the Belgians have caught the most amount of fish on the bank, to be fair, if that's what they're telling us. I've heard it all before, and I just get on with what we're doing. I don't worry about anybody else.
Okay, and your team for tomorrow will be?
I've left Dean out, Dean Barlow, and the reason why, when I announced the team in March, all the 8 people in the squad knew that Dean was the reserve. What I did do, I told them all I wanted 5 to fish and a reserve, so everybody knew the game. It could have changed because I didn't know whether I could manage and fish as well, but I am going to fish. But everybody in our squad knew, and I've told them they must keep it quiet because it's a bit unfair to anybody else. And then when I've told the lads themselves now, say I'm stopping the same team, everybody is aware of it. And he's been brilliant, to be fair. I've got to take my hat off to the lad. He's been really professional, and he's took it on the chin, and he's gutted. I know he is. I know how he feels. It's absolutely horrible, but maybe he gets a chance to fish Friday. Let's hope he does. That means that we've all done well. But he'll get a chance in future years because he's been a true professional and a very, very good bloke.
Okay, then we wish you all the best for the next couple of days, and hope to see you on top of those podium.
It will be very nice. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Tommy.
You.
So the team for tomorrow is named, and Tommy is happy with the tactics that England will use for the championships. After this team talk, Steve Ringer promised to show us the rigs they'll be using on the River Tibor.
Right, due to SIP's regulations, we've had to come up with a special rig for fishing the river. What I've got is £6 main line, and one of the rules is the feeder has to be free running. So as you can see, just there, it's free running, moving up and down the line. This is so that if the main line breaks above the feeder, the fish is not left trailing any tackle. So we've got a free running rig, and what we wanted to do was make it as tangle free as possible. So the first job when tying it is to thread the snap link swivel up onto the line. So that threads up towards the rod top, and then what I do is tie a 4 to 6 inch loop, big loop, in below the loose feeder. So I've got a 6-inch loop in the bottom of the main line, and then what I've done is tied a series of small loops. I've got one about 1.5 inches below the main knot, then another one, and then finally the loop at the bottom is where my hook length joins. The idea is that this creates a stiff boom and stops the rig from tangling on the cast, so it keeps the hook length from getting caught around the actual feeder itself. It also acts as a shock absorber for the cast. What we've done to stop the feeder going down onto the hook length, just placed 2 number 4 stots. And we did try different types of rubber bead and stuff like that, but the advantage of the stots is, even when you're casting a long way, some of the pegs on the river lead 70-80 yard chucks, the stots don't move, they stay in place. So they act as a nice little shocker, so the feeder's always resting against them. Then we've got your hook length. All I've done is a little loop-to-loop connection. You can see the loop. Basically, there's a loop in the end of the big loop, small loop in the hook length. Then I've got a hook length of about 60 centimetres. And when there's restrictions on hook length size, it's 50 centimetres minimum. So we've been messing about basically using hook lengths anything between 50 centimetres and 1.5 meters, depending on the species we're fishing for. Lastly, we've got hook. Because of the diversity of the river, we could be fishing for carp, carasio, catfish. been tying up a lot of different hook patterns, ranging in sizes from anything from like an 18 for catching little tiny fish to a 14 or even a 12 for catching carp up to sort of 6 kilo like we've had in practice. So that's the basics of the rig. Now it's all going to be about the fishing.
We heard from Steve a couple of the rules regarding rigs, like for example why anglers must use running rigs. Anglers must also use a shock leader. The feeder cage must also run freely over the knot that connects these to the main line. Steve also stated that the hook length must be at least 50 centimetres. Even the size of the hook is limited to a maximal size 10. Feeder cages are not to exceed 7 centimetres in length and a diameter of 5 centimetres. I think I've covered most of the important rules on rigs. Competitors are quite limited on the methods they can use. Each session of the Feeder World Championship is 5 hours long. There is no 10-minute pre-baiting time like they have on the course fishing championships. On the start signal, anglers can feed as much or as long as they wish. England have decided to feed 3 lines today. The first will be on the far bank. This will be mainly concentrating on the carp that seek refuge under the trees and snags submerged beneath the surface. The landowners have chopped down the trees, and instead of taking them away, they are just left to rot in the river. Great spots for carp, but a nightmare to fish and to get them out of this underwater jungle. The second line is at about 3/4 of the way over, mostly snag free, and the target fish here is carassios, catfish and the odd carp. The third line is an underarm cast at about 20 metres. This line is really just for emergencies, when nothing is going on the other 2 lines.
Come off, isn't it? Sticky in as well, isn't it? It's sticky in as well, isn't it? That's good.
Next door to England are the home nation team Italy. I've been told that feeder fishing hardly exists in this country. It'll be interesting to see how the team fare in their own backyard. France or another country that admits that feeder fishing is not top of the list. Like all international events, the French certainly know how to make themselves comfortable. Everybody smile.
Ah, smile. Moi, je regardais pas en plus.
What, vino?
Ah non. Non, 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 non. C'est vrai, il y a une bouteille de vinaigre à côté.
Ils font le tas à chaque coup.
Vous croyez pas qu'on en a un peu beaucoup?
So we are now joined by Dirk, the manager of the Dutch team. Hi, Dirk.
Hi, how are you doing?
Fine, thanks. Holland, a big feeder nation, and this is not a typical feeder river what you'd find in Holland. How are you coming to terms with the water?
Well, the water itself is it's fine, you know, distances are okay, nothing particular over there, but it's a very snaggy water. There are a lot of sunken trees and it's very peggy. One peg to another is very different. There's no commonality in the pegs. So that makes it different from the Dutch waters. And the species are quite different as well. We have some carp, obviously, but it's not the main fish we fish for in Holland. And the carassios are finicky biters, so that's a little bit different as well.
Yeah. So you say the pegs are snaggy, so it won't be a fair competition?
Luck will and the draw will be very, very important. Yeah, in this competition. For example, day one we had box 3. The right 3 people of the team, you know, could fish perfectly on different distances. The left 3 pegs were so snaggy. I think there are 20 shock leaders in there now from us, so that's hard.
So today's Wednesday, Monday and Tuesday. What weights were you pulling out?
We had one guy fishing the strategy because we fished already weeks ago over here for a full week. So we had one guy just fishing our preliminary strategy, and he could have caught up to 20-30 kilograms. I think we stopped him at 13 kilograms, so that was top weight. All others did something else. Top weight second was about 4 or 5 kilos downwards to a pound.
All right, that sounds quite good. Today looks harder. The anglers are struggling for fish today, it seems, on some of the training boxes. Would you agree? And how are the fish disappearing from the venue?
Yeah, what we have seen already on day 2 is that the outer places, you know, are becoming better. It's quite hot. There isn't abundant fish over here, so the fish are getting fed and fed and fed. So they are more finicky in what they are eating. So we believe the first hour is going to be very important, and after that need a little bit of luck to get a bite, because you can sit for an hour and all of a sudden you get a bite out of nowhere. So you need to keep the concentration going and just go for that extra fish, and every fish you hook needs to be landed. You have to be very careful about them.
Okay. Going to the ground baits, I think you agree ground baits are not important, they're just used for carrying particles. Would you agree? And which particles are you using here?
The particles we are using here are corn. We got about 4 or 5 different colors and tastes in corn as a change bait typically. Then the maggots, they seem to like and prefer white over other colors at the moment. Hemp is what we use a lot in the ground bait at the moment. So we'll see.
Okay, so you've got a plan together. You're happy going into the competition tomorrow morning?
Yeah, well, we have our last strategy meeting today. The first practice week we were here at the end of July turned out with a scenario that we really started to adopt. On the first training day it still proved itself, so we were very confident about that. The second day, yesterday, we had 2 anglers fishing that strategy, and they doubled all the weights of all the other guys. And today it's just once more a harder day. And to be honest to you, maybe we should change it a little bit, but I don't think we are going to do it, because this is would be a last-minute change, and I think we have to put our faith and our belief in what we have thought we should do up till now.
Okay.
So we're just going for it.
We're just looking over there. One of your anglers have just caught another carp. Have you named your team, or do you know your team for tomorrow?
Yeah, I know the team for tomorrow. Fishing will be Theo Leijerik, Anne Bruins, Henk Roskam, myself, because I'm an angler as well. Jan Zekveld is the one who's going to be reserved day 1, and he's functioning as the team captain tomorrow.
Okay, we wish you all the best for the competition, and would you show us a typical Tavera, River Tavera rig?
You're welcome, I'll show you one.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, on the Tavera we are supposed to use a running rig and a shock leader. That means that you got a knot somewhere where the shock leader is tied to the main line. The running rig means that it needs to slide all over the line and over the knot of your shock leader where it's connected to your main line. So we have found that this method is working very nicely on the Tavera, because you get some distance for the direct bites. As the bottom is very snaggy, if we wouldn't put this to the swim feeder, it would be all stuck on the bottom and it can rub against branches and whatever. So this holds it up a little bit. As you can also see, we have made it very smooth with little sleeves on it. So your hook line is not going to tangle around anything, swivels or anything else. To stop this off and protect the knot behind it, we have a little bead, a little one with a very little hole. Then we twist the last section of the line to make it very stiff actually. So the bead is going to protect the knot when the heavy cage is pulling towards it. And then at the end there is a little loop for the hook length. The minimum size of the hook length is 50 centimeters we are supposed to use. So with this little section you get to 60 centimeters, and we have found that 60 to 70 centimeters is perfect, because then the carp hooks itself a little bit sooner than if you would use a meter, for example. So a very simple setup, and as you can see, if I hold it like this with the weight of a cage, you see that the twisted section is standing off, so it doesn't get all tangled into your cage. That's it, simple and effective.
So here we are at last, day one of the first feeder World Championships 2011. All anglers have 60 minutes to set up their peg. On the very first signal of the day, anglers may enter their drawn box. Before this signal, nothing is to enter the box, and anglers are not permitted to prepare any equipment outside of the box. All legs of the seat boxes and platform are to be on the bank and not in the water. Keep nets have to be at least 4 meters in length and have a diameter of 40 centimeters. Rectangle keep nets have to be at least 50 centimeters diagonal. Rod lengths are also restricted to 4.5 meters in length. There's plenty of rules and regulations to keep the anglers busy. Anglers are also restricted to use a bomb when plumbing their swims for depth or snags. The use of a cage feeder to plumb up is strictly against the rules. As I mentioned earlier, in the time allocated for setting up, the bait controls also take place. The steward enters the box to measure baits. Everything the angler needs has to be in the box by now. When the official leaves the box, then nothing is to enter the zone anymore. The angler is also not permitted to leave the box without permission. 12 litres of ground bait is the limit. This includes earth, hemp, pellets, attractors, maize, etc. This is the peg of Dutch feeder expert Peter van der Willig. The official takes his time. It's also his first time too.
Worms.
First put that in and then you put on top. First put that inside and then put on top. It's better. I mean you're trying to measure. So put all of that inside. Well, put it inside if you want to measure. Because he's trying to measure it there, but it's not possible.
Next up is England's Mick Viles. The official is in the next box and due any minute now. Mick has to work quickly to get his bait into those official containers before he arrives. Mick manages to get everything in order just in time. A delay for the steward could cost a warning or even a yellow card. After controls have been made, anglers may now prepare their bait and feed for the session. They may only use fine spray bottles to add any more water to the ground bait, and only in moderate quantities. We start the session on pegs C14 and C15. Peter van der Villig has drawn next to Mick Viles. This promises to be good viewing. There are about 10 managers and bank runners from the other nations to keep their eyes on how these two swim their feeds over the next 10 to 15 minutes. Both anglers start to feed the far bank. As soon as Mick's cage hits the deck, it seems he retrieves it almost immediately. He must have a light mix that leaves the cage quickly. Peter, on the other hand, is taking his time. That must be quite a sticky mix and needs time before breaking down. For every cast Peter makes, Mick makes 2. No, Peter hasn't fell asleep. What we see here is 2 completely different tactics at work. Holland have opted for the sticky mix approach with quite a lot of chopped worm, whereas England want to get as many particles down as possible. Again, we see how quickly the cage is retrieved after hitting down. Perhaps Mick cannot get further to the other bank due to snags, but it looks like Peter's found a clear area closer to the bank. Mick now starts to feed the second line, a different ground bait but still a light mix. Peter takes another portion of chopped worm. They are chopped in a sieve to drain the juice. The ground bait is probably wet enough and Peter doesn't want any more liquid in it. Mick continues feeding at a fast pace. He's looking up and down and must know that he's putting in more feed than any other anglers around him. Well, a tactical decision has been made and has to be carried out to orders. There's no room in the angler's head for doubts now, just hope that the right tactic has been chosen.
Finale 2, no? La gara, sbaglio?
9:30, 5 ore.
A 9:30.
This is now the third line for Mick. Peter starts to feed his second line.
Ma ascolti, lei va a pesca, no? Quasi sotto le frasche di diga. passi a metà più un po' più là, con mano, la deconcentro. Sì, ma io tanto che la prima volta dico, no, stai allaccia da metà, là. Sì, ma ascolti, i gattini lì, no? La pastura di qui. Ormai non la concentra tutta su tutto. In 2 o 3 mesi che posto logico, dico, ragazzi, ma è una tecnica mostruosa. Ieri lei c'era di più, l'ho acchiappato il pesce, io me ne del salotto là dentro.
No, che faccio?
Buon divertimento. Quanto vuole se vuole.
Ma ce vuole.
12 minutes of feeding is over for Mick. In the feeder goes ground bait with plenty of maggots in the hope of an early carp on the far line. Again we see Holland relying on chopped worm from the very beginning, and Peter goes to the far bank to start with too. C13, home nation Italy, they think that the second line might produce better to begin with. And the Belgian on C12. This really does promise to be an interesting part to the section. More maggots in the feeder for Mick in the hope of that early carp. Anglers must now concentrate and not let their thoughts wander. If a carp bites now, you need to act quickly to pull these carp away from those snags before the fish realises what's happened. 30 minutes pass and not a fish in sight from this part of the section. The first fish we see is from the Russian on peg C5. His neighbour on C6 is Germany's Fiedermeister, Michael Zammataro. He's managed to hook a fish, but nothing to write home about. I said earlier that France is not really a feeder nation, but a nice fish for Didier Goupy. I'm not sure which fight was better, that with the fish or that with his landing net. Section A, and on A2 the Dutch feeder specialist Theo Lyrik. Just look at that. Unbelievable. Can he do it again? Okay, that was a few centimetres off, but not bad. And why is Theo so close to the bank? Because that's where the big carp hang out. Unlucky for Theo, but he does manage to clear his swim of more debris.
Perfect.
Left of Theo and on end peg A1, England's Steve Ringer. Steve, not having the best of starts, has 2 chub in the net, whereas Theo has 2 good Carasios and now this carp.
Die fangen jetzt alle hier, ne?
Ja, es geht besser.
Ja.
Nur die Englishman,
Ja.
Er weiß nicht.
England's boss has drawn peg D4. A nice spot in the shade, but Tommy must leave his seat box and back up the bank every time he wants to cast. His initial feeding phase must have been a nightmare. Two pegs upstream and the Dutchman Anna Bruns already has a couple of these catfish in the net. This is Germany's Tobias Klein. Like his teammate, Germany are going for anything that swims. End peg D16. The Italian has not seen a single bite in the first hour. This is the view looking down D section. And this is E section with its high banks. Not easy getting all your gear down to your peg here. Representing England in E section, Darren Cox. Darren is not having the best of starts and is in need of a few bonus fish. Darren's neighbour from Moldavia has had a few of these fish and is still going strong. Now this is an unusual sight, an Italian with a carp on the end of his line. Mirko Gazzetti has been playing this fish for the last 10 minutes now.
10 minutes. Big. I was just saying it was very.
And after 20 minutes, it looks like the carp is tiring and ready for the net. Oh dear. If Marco cleared those branches before the session, then he would possibly be 10 places higher on the score sheet. Back down in C section, the Serbian has not had a bite until now, that is. Again, a lost fish in the snags. These carp certainly know how to dive for cover. Okay, jetzt haben wir 2,5 Stunden ist gelaufen, ist halbwegs jetzt. Wir befinden uns ganz in der Mitte von der ganzen Strecke auf C6, wo Michael Zammataro hinter uns sitzt. Neben mir Kurt Kricker, der läuft hier für die Deutschen rum, so sage ich, Manager sozusagen. Kurt, erzählt mal, wie ist das jetzt nach 2,5 Stunden?
Also in der Anfangsphase der ersten Stunde hat sich das eigentlich konträr zu dem dargestellt, wie wir es in den Trainingstagen erlebt haben. Also am Anfang der Trainingstage waren immer relativ schnell Fische an den Plätzen, auch gute Fische. Heute ist es eigentlich komplett anders. Wir haben in der ersten Stunde nur sehr verhalten auf vielen Plätzen Reaktionen gesehen. In der zweiten Stunde sieht es jetzt so aus, dass auf einigen Plätzen die Fische aufgelaufen sind. Dort im Prinzip, wo viel mit Lebendfutter gearbeitet wurde, sei es mit Wurm oder mit Maden, kamen die ein oder anderen Karauschen und auch einige gute Karpfen, die leider zum Teil verloren gegangen sind. Muss man sagen, auch wenn es jetzt nicht bei den Deutschen war, ist es immer schade, wenn ein großer Fisch verloren geht. Ich denke mal, dass jetzt im Verlauf der nächsten Stunde die Schlagzeilen bei einigen zunehmen werden. Also das beste Ergebnis, was ich bisher beim Durchlaufen der Strecke gesehen habe, lag bei etwa 11 bis 12 Fischen. Und dann eben als durchwachsen mit kleineren und größeren Fischen.
Ja, 11 Fische, ich muss sagen, habe ich auch so, das war der höchste, was ich gesehen habe. Aber wie gestern, so nach 2,5, 3 Stunden, sind denn die Fische auf die Strecke gekommen?
Ja, und so genauso stellt sich es auch heute dar, dass ich sag mal, die Fische, die vorher unter Umständen irgendwo Deckung gesucht haben auf der anderen Seite, jetzt durch die Ruhe, die auf der Strecke eingekehrt ist. Am Anfang der Geschichte ist klar, es fahren viele Autos lang, es wird aufgebaut, es ist viel Tumult am Ufer, die Fische gehen drüben auf der anderen Seite in Deckung, aufgrund der Breite, die wir hier nur haben. Aber so langsam durch die einkehrende Ruhe sind die Fische auch wieder etwas beruhigter und gehen zurück in die Mitte der Gewässer. Und das macht sich jetzt definitiv bemerkbar.
Und wir sehen jetzt, keine Mannschaft liegt vorne, ist alles noch offen, die nächsten 2,5 Stunden.
Ja, also ich sag mal, eine Prognose jetzt abzugeben, welche Mannschaft vorne liegt, das wäre eine reine Spekulation. Ich denke mal, man muss jetzt die nächste Stunde abwarten. Die Spreu vom Weizen wird sich in der 4. Stunde trennen, weil dann erfahrungsgemäß auch aus den Trainingen die Schlagzeilen derbe abfallen. Und nur die wirklich ihren Plan voll erfüllt haben und das richtige Händchen bewiesen haben bei der Befütterung, werden definitiv dann noch ein paar Fische fangen. Und dann wird sich im Prinzip erstmal herauskristallisieren, welche Mannschaft im Vordergrund steht.
The fish are starting to turn up now, and Andreas Settel from Austria can confirm this. A fish of this calibre can bring an angler right up the score sheet. Back up to E section with the representative from Serbia. England's coach Glenn Lawrence is getting a little bit worried. Both Darren's neighbours are catching well, and Glenn has Darren down as 2 kilograms behind. Just 4 hours to go. We're down here in E11 with Darren Cox in the background, and we're joined by Glenn, the bank runner and coach for England. Glenn, will you give us a quick rundown? How have the 4 hours gone till now for England?
Started off with a few fish, but then the middle 3 hours have been no fish at all, really.
Yeah.
I think the venues got harder instead of better, which is during practice has got better.
Yeah.
Today it's just got harder and harder. If you haven't caught them in the first hour, it seems you can't pull it back.
So you don't think the last hour will be crucial?
It'd be very crucial. I mean, I think we'll be looking to catch a big fish in the last hour and hopefully get back in there.
Yeah. All right then, thanks for a quick views. Wish you all best for the next hour.
Thanks. Okay.
In the last hour, it's quite difficult to find any anglers catching. This chap didn't let us down though. Dutch angler Anna Bruns on D6. To lose a fish of that size in the last 30 minutes is not good. That fish could have put Anna up in the rankings 4 or even 5 positions. And with just a minute left on the clock, we'll stick with Tommy until the scales turn up. Tommy weighs in at 3095. Well, he's beaten all the anglers to the left of him. On peg D7, Germany's young angler Tobias Klein, 19.31 kilos. And that's obviously a mistake, but with a real weight of 2089, this was Germany's best effort on day one. So let's have a look at the official score sheets for D section. Oleksiy won his section easily with his carp and big fish tactics, a total weight of 9842. 2 points go to Spain, and Tommy finishes with 3 good points for England. Netherlands takes 6 points away from this section, and we've already seen 7 points for Tobias. Both Italy and France bottom of the list, 2 great fishing nations, but not with the feeder it seems, at least in this section. B section, and again the Ukrainians showing that they are onto something here, especially when it revolves around big carp. And the Dutch manager showing why he's also a participant of this championships. Two important points, but only just, with 51 grams more than the Slovenian in third position. South Africa and the Czech Republic again in the top half of the section. Ex-European champion in coarse fishing Steve Hemingway will be a little disappointed with his position, but a total disaster for Germany's co-trainer Michael Schlögl, bottom of the field. A section saw the highest weight of the day go to Theo Lyric, with 14.564 and a great performance on A2. England's top rod, Steve Ringer, takes 2 points for the team from end peg A1. As you can see, the top 5 positions come from the pegs A1 to A5. Ukraine have had the brakes put on them with only 11 points coming from this section. Again, a disappointing result for Germany, And the only angler without a fish from the whole venue, the Moldavian on peg A6. And there they are again, third section win today for Ukraine, again with just big carp in the net. Andreas Isetta's nice carp put him in third position, and Holland again up there in the lower points. In the last section of the day, top position went to Russia. This angler and his team received a yellow card in an after-match jury meeting. We'll go more into that just after the final results. Spain and Slovakia again picking up good points for their teams. England received the third 12-pointer of the day. And obviously, no carp in the peg E1. Ukraine pick up a disastrous 15 points to go with their total 14 points from the other sections. A quick look at the individual standings. Of course, Tio heads the score sheet with a massive weight today, but just look at those three Ukrainians snapping at his heels. More importantly, the team classifications, and no surprises, the Netherlands with 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th and a 6th in section. A total of 18 points leading the championships. 10 points behind Slovakia, and not far behind Ukraine and Spain. England's expected podium finish is looking quite slim after today. I'm sure a few changes will be made tomorrow to try and pull a few positions back. Home nation Italy, surprising for me, finished bottom, but a disaster for Germany, where I know feeder fishing is big and on the up in the country. So as I said, in an after-match meeting, the jury found Russia in breach of Rule 17. What happened is, on E15 the Russian had his hook length tangled up around his cage feeder, in such a way that the feeder was fixed and the hook length had a length of around 10 centimeters. Okay, tangles can happen, but to catch 10 fish in the first 2 hours with this method type system is clearly cheating. Witnessed by several managers and bank managers, the jury had no option but to penalise the angler. The yellow card was given for breach of Rule 17, which states that method feeding is forbidden and hook lengths must be at least 50 centimeters. But if we look at the sanctions issued by FIPS, Sanction 31B states that a breach of Rule 17 is a red card, meaning disqualification. Did the jury make a mistake? Welcome to day 2 of the Feeder Championships. Yesterday I'm joined by the manager and Tio from Team Holland, who had a good day yesterday. Dirk, tell us how the day went for Holland yesterday.
Well, our draw wasn't too bad. We had a very good peg in it, some average pegs and not really a nightmare peg. And we put a strategy in that we had developed over the 2 training weeks that we have been here. And I must say it worked like a dream.
It went, yeah, you had, what section wins did you have?
We had 1 section win, we had a 2nd, a 3rd, a 5 and a 6. So average throughout the team, it was just great.
Did your tactics from training, you was obviously happy with it, they worked. Did you know these tactics? Was you happy with the tactics?
The tactics were happy. The only problem was that after 3 hours the team had less than 10 points and we lost in the second part of the tournament. We lost 2 points per angler, so we ended on 18 points. So we made some adjustments yesterday evening to try to prevent that from happening today.
Okay, going to the small adjustments, no one's listening.
Small adjustment is that I believe that the ground bait we were using on the shorter lines wasn't really correct. It was too wet, too sticky, so we loosened that up quite a bit.
Okay. Tio, the only Holland to have a section win yesterday, but obviously the other results were very good. Tell us, you can tell us in Dutch, how did your session go?
I tried in English.
Okay.
Really good. First one on A2 and with 14.5 kilos.
14.5 kilos. I think that was that the highest weight on the stretch?
Yes, was the highest weight from all.
So obviously you had big fish. How did you select the big fish?
To fish as close as possible to the other side.
Yeah.
There are the big carp yesterday.
Yeah. I think we saw some anglers actually hitting the bank with their feeders yesterday and dropping it just short of the bank. Is that the tactic needed?
Yeah, I think so. The big fish are all very close to the other side. When you had a few bosch, you can throw the feeder around under it. And there are the big carp.
Okay, right. Next time I'm going to bring a crate with me so I can come up here. Where's he gone? Oh, yeah, the manager has left us. Okay, then we wish you all the best for today, and we're going to be watching you today and keeping our eye on you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you. Same procedure as yesterday, and the bait controls are made. This time we take the chance to have a closer look at what the Ukrainians are using.
No, here.
Ah, here. Yes, that's fine.
Gattini, mais.
Ok.
Vediamo qui. Poi ci dà, quello ci dà. No.
Best section winner from yesterday, this is Tio's bait and ground bait.
Oh! Excuse me.
England's Dean Barlow will step in today as a substitute for Mick Viles. Although 3 anglers finished 12th in section for England yesterday, Mick unfortunately had the lowest weight. Another substitute England have made, in that they have ditched the caster and opted for extra worms. They must have kept their eyes on Holland yesterday. But dead maggots will still play a role in England's tactics on day 2. Here we see the table is set with all sorts of bits and pieces. Everything is looking in order in the Italian box. After yesterday's results, Tio needs a good draw today in E section. E9 produced 4th position yesterday. Not bad, but even better, Tio's teammate Henk Roskam was that angler. Tio should have some good information about this peg today. Right then, the second session of the World Championships has begun, and all competitors wait for that all-important first fish. A dream start for Tio, and a nice fish from the far bank has been hooked. Frustrating for Tio, he manages a few small fish. His coach will be calming him down at this point. Yesterday this peg produced a 10th position, not too good, but it didn't have an Ukrainian sat on it. The Czech on E2 already has a few of these in his net in the first hour. These lads from South Africa have had a long journey to attend here this week. Add to that the challenge of logistics and costs. In 2 years' time, the championships are to be held in South Africa. I think all teams planning that trip should start looking into organising that one as soon as the championships are over here. Van der Wijk on peg D11. Yesterday, the Spaniard managed second place. But first, Peter needs to find the gaps between the snags. A good effort yesterday from Slovakia and a good start to today. After yesterday, all eyes are on the Russians today. Yes, everything seems fine with his rigs this morning. And this is the peg where the Ukrainian Oleksiy sat yesterday. Today Darren Cox is trying his luck, but I'm not sure if any carp are left in this peg. The crowd always follow England no matter where in the world they fish. The official England supporters club. And talk of the devil, Oleksiy, section winner yesterday and today again with carp on. I can tell you now, this fight lasted for 1 hour and 15 minutes. That's 75 minutes in total. We've cut it down to around 10 minutes. I'm off for a cup of tea, so enjoy.
Rechte bureau.
messing around, aren't they, with that reel?
Spoken yesterday with the South Africans and asked about the baits in 2 years in fish there. He says they have no industry of maggots, but I have permission to.
Sì, ma dove andare fuori, Tutti fuori. Di là da quella. Di là, al volo di là. Dal campo. Di là, fuori. Pure sì.
Press, dentro il corridoio però ragazzi, avete pazienza, c'è contestazioni. Press, aprire nel corridoio. Corridoio. No, corridoio. Corridoio.
Corridor?
Contestazioni.
Ну там я другие были там.
Eine Stunde noch.
Ты можешь, скажи. Ты можешь показывать?
Не надо, пойдем.
Страшный, Лёха, стоит уже.
Guarino.
It seemed as if someone had hit a switch in the last 2 hours. There was not a bite to be had, doesn't matter what the anglers did. There was, of course, one exception. Yes, him again. This time, though, a little quicker. We're just coming into the last hour of the second day, and we're now joined by the Ukrainian manager. Your name?
Sergei Rybka.
So, thanks for having a quick word of you. Yesterday, your guys had 3 section wins. Will you tell us how you do it?
On training, we understood that if you want to win a sector, you must catch big fish. So our goal was catch only big fish, not any small fish. So we prepare everything to do only this, only big fish.
Yeah. And how do you prepare? What ground baits, what baits are you using?
We are using sweet corn and the ground baits. It's small secret.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very windy. I hope we're getting good tone at the moment. So, and today, how are the guys looking today?
I think we are good in 2 sectors. In 1 sector maybe we win, and in 3 sector not too good because not catch big fish.
Okay.
So it's c'est la vie.
Okay. There's the East European countries are doing very well here. No?
Yeah.
Russia, Slovenia, Ukraine are doing very well.
Because feeder is very popular.
Yeah.
It's very popular. Our grandfather catch fish on the feeder, no, not feeder, but something like this. And before this championat, we have 3 championat in Ukraine, in Belarus, in Russia. When come different, when come sportsmen from different country, Russia, Belarus, Estonia, Litva, and the other, and so we have a bit.
You have some experience.
Yeah, we have some experience in international championships.
Yeah.
So.
And are you used to fighting carp like this?
Sorry?
Do you have carp like this in Ukraine? Carp, the fish, the big fish?
Yeah. We have a lot of big fish, but usually we don't catch carp.
Yeah.
Carp is not our fish. Our fish is bream and roach. So in Ukraine a lot of river. So usually in all championship we catch bream and roach. Big bream, big roach.
Are we looking at the very first feeder world champion behind us?
Maybe.
So, one last look into the secret mix before the results from today. We start in E section with no surprises. First place for Ukraine. This was the chap that finished 15th yesterday though. Good effort for today for his team, but no chance of gold for this Ukrainian. France managed a second in section. That's France's best result this championship. Theo ended the day in 6th. He lost 2 good carp that could have cost him a title. And with Germany, England and Spain on the wrong end of the score sheet, there was no pulling back done in this section. Next up, Section D. 1 point for Russia, and again the Slovakians looking good. Holland takes 7 points from D section, and again England, Germany and Spain in the bottom half. But also Ukraine not doing so well in this section. They really did have an all or nothing strategy. And that was Germany's Matthias Weigang, and unusual for Germany this week, a place at the top of the score sheet from B11 and 4756 grams. 3 points for Ukraine, and England's manager again in the top 5. Our friend Dirk could only take 10th position from B2. Steve Ringer sat in A section again today. It's not possible to fish an end peg 2 days in a row, and the last 2 pegs in each section count as end pegs. So a section win from A7 was quite a result for Steve and of course the team.
Ok. Piano, piano.
9.983.
Everyone should know his face by now. Section win yesterday, and the only angler to manage a section win today, Oleksiy Straszny. I don't know if I've pronounced that properly, but we're better off calling him the first feeder world champion of all time. There we see Oleksiy's name board. First 2 hours without a fish, third hour 4 fish, fourth hour just the 1 fish, and in the last hour 4 more, for a total of 9 fish and nearly 10 kilos. Again confirmation of the individuals, Steve Ringer takes silver and another Ukrainian on the podium for bronze. Section winner yesterday, Theo still had the second top weight this championship, but dropping down the rankings to 5th overall. And with the 6th in section today, the Russian section winner from yesterday, avoiding a complete scandal, at least in the individual results. Once more a very happy looking world champion. We were a little disappointed that he didn't take a jump in the water. And the final team results from the 2011 feeder championships. Russia totaled 21 points today, totaling 54 points in all. Ukraine and the Netherlands both finishing with 58 points, but of course Ukraine with more weight taking away silver. 40 points in total today. The Netherlands will wonder what happened after yesterday's results, but still podium finish and a bronze for the Orange Nation. Both Slovakia and Spain dropping points today, and both countries dropping 2 positions. England jumped 3 positions with just 3 points improvement today. Germany and Italy still in the same positions. Germany will have to restructure their policies for an improvement to be made next year, which incidentally is to be held in Belgium. So just before we wrap things up here, let's hear from silver medalist Steve Ringer. A few surprises here at the Feeder World Championships. With me at the moment, Steve Ringer. Section win today, Steve. Talk us quickly through how it went today.
Yeah, I've been in A section both days, so I had the benefit of hindsight as in I saw how it fished, so I had a better idea how to approach my peg. We changed tactics slightly from sort of day one, changed our ground bait a little and changed the amount of worm. We put a lot more worm through today. You know what I mean? Like, because I had a good result yesterday, Tommy gave me sort of free rein to be really positive and just sit and fish down one line, and that's pretty much what I've done. I've started to try and fish across, but it was just full of snags. I think I've lost 5 or 6 feeders, and then basically I've just settled on one line down the middle and just kept fishing it. I mean, the advantage I had, I saw the section yesterday and there was a lot of fish caught early and nothing through the middle, and then if you stayed on the same line you caught again at the end, and that's exactly, I've caught like after an hour and a quarter I hadn't had a fish, then I've had like 7 fish in virtually 7 chucks, and then in the last sort of hour I probably had another 7 fish, and that's been like my 6 kilo.
Yeah, England came here favourite. In everyone else's eyes, they came here favourite. A lot of people were watching you in training. I think they took away a few negative things, would you say?
I think, to be honest, it's totally our type of feeder fishing and feeder fishing on the continent is totally different. And I think we've learned. I've learned a lot personally. I'm sure the rest of the team have. That we've got a lot to learn about the way they fish on the continent. You know, one of our problems is we fish obviously with like method feeders, pellets, all those sort of baits back in the UK. And then when you come out here, it's just totally different. They're wild fish. They're not like bred like they are in England, and it requires a different approach. Yeah. You know what I mean? And teams who like you wouldn't have thought were the world's best feeder anglers, no disrespect to them, have done really, really well, and it just shows they obviously know a lot more about the way these fish feed than what we do.
Yeah, as you said, like teams from Eastern European coming over, they've got basic methods, they've got basic ground baits, sweet corn on the hook, but that's what the fish wanted here.
You have to take your hats off. But I mean, the Ukrainian guy who's won gold, individual gold, he's not the best angler in the world, but he's obviously sorted it out. They've sorted the venue out. He's sorted out to catch the big carp, and you have to take your hat off to him.
Yeah. Okay, Steve, thanks for taking time. Next year, England come back with a stronger team, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got a good team. I just think we need to maybe be a little bit more open-minded about the way fish feed on the continent and learn from this experience.
Okay, thanks very much,
No
Steve.
problem.
Again, congratulations. Looks like it may be a silver in the pot for you today.
I'll take any medal after the first day.
Okay, thanks very much,
Thank you.
Steve. Thank you.